Did I really leave this recording like that?
Survivors of sexual abuse by clergy suffered in secrecy and shame, fearing that no one would believe them.
Hi, my name is Abigail Marsh. I'm a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Georgetown University, and I'm a psychopathy researcher. I'd like to talk today about what the difference is between a psychopath and a sociopath, because I get this question a lot.
A delta B. Topology. Marginal utilitarianism.
Heard both terms used sort of interchangeably in movies and books and the media to describe people who engage in
sociopaths are more of a social index. Psychopath would be a real, I know that the cop would be looking for me. Sociopath means maybe I'd convince the model in terms of my grandmother or something. It's like, you know, you gotta be manipulative, but there's really not a difference between the pathy, that you're generally breaking down this complex conjugative into sine and cosine. Sociopath, or excuse me, psychopath would be singular. Social, in definition of its concept, would be multifaceted. It would be a multivariable, or excuse me, there's single variable calculus and multivariable calculus. Now, when you go delving into it, it's just more beneficial to say you got more of a problem with the house model than you do the town model, right? So when I'm all about trying to make manipulative moves, it'd be a standard of that's more of a sociopath. But when I'm in local with one of those long-term goals, well, that makes this conversation very manipulative as a psychologist by not bringing up single variable calculus or multivariable calculus. Students have responses to saying, well, there's a positive index to sociopath or psychopath, and there's also a positive index to PSTD, which would be hypervigilance. And so I can be really manipulative by that standard if I'm not graphing it to prove it to you in some index of the psychological categories. Out of the case studies I have, I would define somebody in this case to have the terms of sociopath. We really didn't have a term for it. Let's just call it any pathy. Let's deal with, fuck these other psychologists. It was just a term, this cowboy used it, and I'm like, alright, you know, that's fine, I'll go with it. And generally what it means is like, you know, those are the spectrums of Dave. You know, that would be a schizo, but he's really being social when I talk about the boss that might hit one of those triggers when I'm being manipulative in the hypervigilant standards of PSTD and how this stuff affects.
The issue is that the term psychopath has always had other problems.
Multivariable calculus, single variable calculus, close to 0, close to 1. Sociopath is, by definition, Big Bang. It starts from here, and we make the augmentation of that. That doesn't go to the ground. That doesn't go to the grave. You might be plenty of normal between that. And then it's just, well, you need help because you're a therapist, or I'm your therapist, and you need to keep coming back to me on Wednesday. Well, if they're really a sociopath or psychopath, they wouldn't need help from a therapist, unless court ordered. You're normal, you're fine. I don't know what that psychologist told you. Let's talk about your thinking patterns. Let's get you on some general gravity in the stone mill. Let's do that job in the house. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's a dollar store. It doesn't matter if you're a psychologist. What are you doing to graph the index? Because you might fall in this rabbit trap. Anything you say can and will be used against you.